Welcome to Spotlight ETSU. I'm your host, Carrie Oliveira. Today we'll be speaking with Dr. Steve Brown about mental health. Dr. Brown is the director of the ETSU Counseling Center, which offers many services to students and faculty in addition to counseling. Dr. Brown has also served as president of the Association of University and College Counseling Directors and as chair of the American College Personnel Association's Commission on Counseling and Psychological Services. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Brown.
My pleasure.
That is an unnecessary number of syllables.
Yes.
In your former titles. I always like to start these interviews by getting a sort of an orientation to how it is that you came to be at ETSU. So tell us about how it is that you landed here. Where did you start and how did you come here?
Depends on how far you take it back. But primarily
Where it starts being interesting.
Well, it was interesting the whole way. I'll take you back to where it really started,
Okay.
which was when I really chose to be a psychologist. I was 13 years old.
You decided when you were 13 that you were going to be a
Yes.
psychologist.
Because I was dating a 15-year-old girl who indicated that that would be the perfect profession for me.
I'm sure she was very credible on the matter.
She was.
Are you married to this formerly 15-year-old girl?
No, I'm not.
No, okay. So she told you would be a good psychologist.
Yeah.
How did she determine that?
It was just our interactions over time.
Very analytical.
But over time, basically, I ended up teaching high school for 4 years. Have always been somewhat of an activist. Mm-hmm. Ended up as chief negotiator for a classroom teachers organization.
Oh.
Walked through a complaint, basically. Sued the school board instead of going through traditional channels. And we won.
Oh.
And I decided that it was time to go to graduate school.
Yes.
So after grad school, I had a wonderful experience. Oklahoma State's Counseling Center adopted me.
Oh.
And primarily, when I finished my master's degree, my mentor sent me down and said, okay, you've been helping people make career choices for a while. Mm-hmm. So I want you to come up with your ideal job model.
Okay.
So what I did was I designed a job where I would do counseling, but I wanted music, travel, a good salary, a 4-day work week, three-month vacation, and I wanted to ski and backpack every weekend.
Sounds like fiction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what most people thought.
Right. 2
months later, I was working for the Department of Occupational Education in Colorado. They gave me a 33-foot mobile classroom unit.
Neat.
And sent me out to Western Colorado to work with colleges, high schools, and communities. And had a 10-speaker stereo system.
Oh, music.
So, yeah, check. And I fell down a lot of mountains in Colorado.
That sounds awful.
And
because those are
backpacked.
big mountains, not like little Tennessee hills.
Yeah, but that's my form of skiing.
Falling down, yes,
Yes.
that works. I've never been. Okay, so you're in Colorado doing amazing, wonderful, your ideal job.
Yeah, in many ways. And basically, after that, having worked with 5,000 people out there over 2 years, went back to finish my doctorate. Finished my doctorate in 2 years. Did my internship at Iowa. Defended my dissertation on Friday. Went to work at University of Georgia on Monday. And worked there 22 years.
They had a lot of confidence in the fact that you were going to successfully defend that dissertation, I guess.
Yeah, there were some loads on it, so.
Uh-huh.
But I was the second person out of our program. So.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, it was. And it was just good experience all the way through. So worked at Georgia. Within 3 years, I was director there and spent some wonderful time at Georgia. And we had administrative changes, which promoted me to say, and primarily one of my key values is working with students has been paramount to really what I believe is just an ultimately meaningful position.
I agree.
And when Georgia started charging students and wanted it all to go through the health center, and so mental health is treated more as an illness rather than developmental issues, decided that was no longer the place for me. And I'd always dreamed, because of my history, of working with first-generation students.
Yeah.
So Dr. Steve Bader, previous vice provost in student affairs, and I, when I interviewed here, we sat down and talked, and he figured out he couldn't pay me what I was making at Georgia, and I said that really wasn't the important point anymore.
Right.
And so came here, have enjoyed it. The course we developed at Georgia, which was making a major career decision,
Yeah.
evolved into solving a puzzle of life here.
Which I hear all kinds of wonderful things about from all kinds of students here. So I'm going to ask you about solving the puzzle of life here momentarily. So you've been with us for 8 years now at ETSU.
Yeah, well, next month.
Next month makes 8 years. And so in your time here, what have you done here? What impact primarily have you made that you're particularly proud of on this campus?
Well, ultimately, when you say what have I done,
Yes.
I'd say the best thing I have done on this campus is collect a really wonderful staff. And these people working together have basically created something here which this campus never had before.
Yes.
When I first came here, there were 3 counselors. We had maybe four graduate assistants. And now we have over 25 people working out of the counseling center.
Holy cow, I had no idea it was that intensely staffed.
It's not intensely staffed in that way, in the sense that there's still 5.8 of us.
5.8, who's missing
Counselors.
body parts?
Okay, yeah, exactly. We have a 3/4 time position.
Gotcha.
Okay, but we have, or 80% time position, but we
I was
have,
going to say you rounded up there.
yeah. So we have at this point expanded our training options, and we really provide some of the best training in the area.
Oh.
Which basically now we're training people in counseling. We're training people, and we've always trained people out of the counseling program.
Yes.
Now we've expanded to social work, and we have also intensified the training for our psychiatry 3rd-year residents.
Oh.
So it basically all this training makes our small staff, which does not have the ability to serve the needs of this population.
Right.
It expands it enough to where we manage.
Oh.
So we're not a counseling center that has a wait list. We do get jammed towards the end of the semester.
Yes. When
But-
stress levels increase.
Exactly.
Yes.
But we were seeing more than twice the number of students for individual counseling as when I first came here.
Wow.
And more importantly, we're seeing more than approximately 12,000 students a year now through our outreach programs, where before it was well less than 3,000.
Your outreach programs include what kinds of things are you talking about?
We have 3 major areas, really 4 major areas. We have alcohol and other drug. We have the OASIS program, Outlook and Advocacy, sexuality information for students.
Yes.
We have suicide and violence prevention, and then we have career. And all 4 of these areas have coordinators.
Yes.
And for example, the career is expanded to the Career Exploration Center, which is in the ARC.
Yes.
So we have a full service down there for students who are really looking to make decisions, which is critical this day and age.
Making decisions about what kind of job they want to get or what they should pursue as a major, or
And it's beyond that. It's really looking at who they are to determine what kind of lifestyle they want.
Right.
And then figuring out what kind of job will fit that lifestyle and what major leads into that job.
Yes, which I think most people, I spend a lot of time advising students who come in and want to be comp studies majors, which is what I advise in, and they're like, yeah, I don't know what I want to do, but I really like this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's cool. You should study something you want, but also you want to be thinking about how you're going to apply this in your life to be able to make a livelihood on this education. And so if they need help with that, they can come see you guys.
Exactly.
Ah, I didn't know that. They didn't know that. Now they do.
Yeah.
That's
And
so cool.
20 years ago, we had better systems in the high schools to help
Yes.
students make those decisions.
Yes.
Most of the students I work with today have not had any assistance. They're basically stumbling along.
I can't imagine. I went to a private high school where my entire senior class was, I think, 112 people, and we had 2 counselors in the school who were responsible for helping us make career and college decisions. But they were only dealing with, like, a junior and senior class. You're only dealing with 300 students at a time, which is manageable for 2 people when you're doing it in cycles. Public schools have, what, 500 students in a graduating class?
Or more, and basically the counselors are given many other responsibilities. Yeah.
And so students are coming to college going,
Yeah, exactly. And then the college says, we want you to choose your major.
yeah, and they want, when I do orientation advising, students are declared already. Like, they have never actually taken a class on this campus, but they have decided what it is they want to major in. And, like, you're going to change your mind, just so you know, which is fine and very appropriate. But I imagine it being very difficult to get some guidance about that. And I don't think students realize they can get some.
Well, I think you're right, that student awareness, for example, when I came here, my guess is about 5% of the students were aware that Counseling Center existed.
Yes.
Now my guess is it's closer to 50%. And it's sad because we put out all kinds of information
Yes.
to inform students. At the same point, students have become somewhat print blind.
Yes.
And we haven't gone into media yet.
Yes.
Which is where we'd get more of them.
That is true. Well, and the other thing too about it is that, like, I see a lot of advertisements for counseling center services in Wharf Pickle Hall, which is where my office is. But I know, like Oasis, I know that Oasis is associated with the counseling center. So when I see those banners, I know that's a counseling center like service and function. And I just don't know. I wonder if students are seeing a lot of those informational banners or whatever else and flyers and just not realizing that those are counseling center provided services. So maybe you need to just brand that a little bit better.
We typically do brand it, but
Yes.
it's like small print.
Teeny. That's not doing you any good. So you provide career and sort of like figure yourself out and how you want the trajectory of your life to go.
Yeah.
You do that, which is awesome. I should come see you guys.
Well, and that's what we say. When I walk in to do presentations, my first question to the group is, I want everybody to stand up who doesn't have an issue.
No. No one's
Exactly.
standing up.
And then I say, that's why we're here.
Oh, that's wonderful. So, okay, so you provide counseling or career and life-related guidance, as well as alcohol and substance use is something you guys also treat in the center,
Right.
which I don't think most students know. I sit on the university judicial committee, and a lot of times it seems the case that students come in with some sort of a misconduct violation or whatever else related to some kind of substance use problem. And it's not until we sentence is not the right word, but part of the philosophy of the judicial committee is if a student has committed a violation of university policy, our job is to help get them to a point where they are adhering to policy voluntarily. And so a lot of that is education, and in many cases we will refer a student as part of education to the counseling center.
Right.
But I don't think that they realize it's there until we tell them you have to go.
Exactly.
And so I find that incredibly difficult. So my question to you then is, how does a student get access to the services at the counseling center? Can they just walk in and be like, I think I have a substance use problem? And I
4
need to
days
talk
a
to somebody?
week, Monday through Thursday, 10 to 11:30, 2 to 3:30. They can walk in.
Walk-ins?
Yes.
4
and they can
days
see
a week?
counselor. Yes.
That is good to know.
Friday is the day when we do the processing and matching clients with counselors. But 4 days a week, they have morning and afternoon access.
And so so suppose a student came in with a substance use problem or depression, suicide, what is the right word I'm looking for? Issue. So they come in and they can do a walk-in, and then you can set up a series of appointments at the counseling center?
Right.
And do you put a limit on the number of appointments that a student can have with you folks?
We generally limit it to 12 sessions.
Okay.
And basically, there's some flexibility with that, but for the most part, most students, when we look at our averages, it's around 7. It's
Oh.
what really helps students the most.
And so what's happening in 7 sessions? Is it you're giving them coping skills? Is it that the issue goes away? Or what really is going on in the counseling situation there?
Well, first off, they're finding that there's a person they can talk to.
Right.
And I think that's one of the critical pieces. Building that relationship, which
Yes.
is different. It's a protected relationship, which very few people have had in their lives.
It's true.
And once they get to that point, then layering on coping skills, helping them understand there are better ways to approach dealing with their distress. Keep in mind that everybody will experience distress.
Yes.
And most humans are going to express it through either depression or anxiety.
Yes.
So those are very common.
both.
Yeah, or both. And you have a small percentage who express it other ways.
Yes.
But anxiety and depression are something, like, for example, how many people do you know who've really had any type of instruction on how to cope with anxiety and depression?
I don't know a single human being who has ever had like instruction on dealing with that. I think that I know a lot of people who've been medicated
Exactly.
to deal with those things, and what frustrates me too, I have a great appreciation for psychopharmacology. I think that it has a lot of therapeutic benefits for people, but I also think it's a shame that in many cases a person is prescribed something for depression or anxiety, and then there's no therapy that goes along with that to be able to, like, you have to learn how to deal with your life. It's like weight loss, right? I can go and I can do the Nutrisystem and I can eat the prepackaged meals, but if nobody's teaching me how to eat, at some point when I get off the prepackaged meals, I'm going to go back to the same disordered relationship with the food.
Yeah.
So it seems to me that I have to figure out how to have a more productive relationship with my environment and my life and the people in it. in order for me to actually have a successful, happy, engaged existence on the planet.
And greater self-respect and self-care.
And greater self-respect and self-care.
Yeah.
Which people I don't think about. They're like, they don't realize that minding and managing their anxiety and depression productively is about taking care of yourself. Which,
Well, in a culture where you have humility taught as a primary value,
yes.
they miss out on what the reality is. The reality, unless people approach life based upon a true understanding of their capabilities, they limit their ability to live.
So in the end, as part of what you counsel students is to, what, abandon humility?
In the sense of, we're not promoting arrogance in any way, shape, form, or fashion.
Because that's not okay.
Yeah. But what we're trying to do is get people to really look at what they have, to look at their own wonder, to basically get into understanding they have gifts,
Yeah.
and to develop that awareness.
Yes.
And to basically take some joy and pride in the gifts that they have.
And who you are.
Exactly.
And enjoy them and avail yourself to them and engage with other people with them.
And learn
Heck
patterns of living that are much healthier for themselves. You know, it's basic self-respect. You talk about medication.
Yes.
We have psychiatry.
Yes.
But every client has to see a therapist to get medication.
Good.
Primarily, when you look at the research, therapy creates some of the same changes in the brain that medication does. And they're more long-lasting because the behavior is persistent.
Yes.
And the efficacy of therapy is every bit as good, if not better, than medication. And you know, the way I express it is, and there's no side effects.
And no side effects.
Exactly.
In fact, if there are side effects, they're good ones, right?
Yeah.
Because they're going to ripple out into other arenas of your life, right?
Yes.
I manage myself, my relationships become better, my relationships are better, like I'm subsequently happier, everybody in my life is happier, I become more productive and efficient in my career, profession, or whatever the case may be. Like, side effects, but good ones.
But you use a key term there too.
What's that?
Relationships.
Oh, yeah. Well, I study interpersonal communication, so, you know, yes, so
So when I look at it, it's like, what's the greatest source of human happiness?
other people.
Good
Building
relationships. What's the highest source of human distress?
Relationships, exactly. I'm going to rip that one from you when I teach interpersonal. It's true, and I tell my students, like, the reason this course is so important for you to take is because you spend your entire existence forming relationships with other people, and so much of your satisfaction and distress comes from your relations with other people.
So who taught you to have a healthy relationship?
Yeah, and I noticed that in here. So I have a sort of like bio about you in advance, and so one of the notes here is that you do some relational counseling a little bit, and one of the things on here is that you challenge people to confront how they learned what a good relationship is.
Sure.
What do students think a good relationship is? Where do they get that image from?
Well, all humans will learn their relationship dynamics from the primary models in their lives.
True.
So when I start relationship programs, I ask, how many of you want a relationship just like your parents?
Like 5 students will.
Yeah, about 3%. You know, about 3%. And those people are really confirming that their parents gave them a good model.
Yes.
To me, that's a very wonderful compliment to the parents.
Yes.
And I really believe parents do the best they know how.
Oh, I agree.
But when you look at relational dynamics, they're intergenerational.
Yes.
The models pass on, pass on, pass on. You can look at generation after generation.
It's how we learn anything, right? I mean, our language, our accents, our colloquial speech, our mannerisms, all of that is learned in the same way that our relational patterns are.
Yes, until you find someone who says, I want to do it different.
Different.
Yeah. So, like in our class, for example, one of the things we require, once the students have a basic understanding of what a healthy relationship model is, they have to design their ideal partner.
I can see that being an awful thing to be doing. I draw a picture of an ideal person who may or may not exist in reality.
True.
Well, that's depressing.
Well, only if you think that it has to be compulsively perfect.
Ah, yes. Which
Because
no
the
one
reality,
is.
exactly. We aren't
And I'm
perfect.
not.
Right, exactly. So it's like when you understand that you're going to get certain attributes and you'll have to compromise on certain attributes.
Yes.
Then it becomes, okay, now I at least have a model, a working model, that basically will prevent me from repeating the pattern that I came from that created the distress.
I just taught attachment theory on Monday in my interpersonal communication class. We were talking about working models, and they're like, Oh, it didn't occur to me that, like, from the time that we are infants, my sense of self and the extent to which I can trust in other people is sort of ingrained
Sure.
in us. And it's a very sort of unconscious thing. And I think what I love about counseling or my class or the Puzzle of Life class or whatever else, I think it's the first time that people are drawn attention to the fact that they're wanting a conscious evaluation of what those working models are.
Yes.
Like, who am I and who are you, and can I trust other people? Am I willing to be close to other people, and how is that affecting the quality of my life?
And how do I want to be?
How is this satisfying for me? Is this what I
Yes.
want? And if not, how do I go about fixing it?
Yeah.
And so that's what you do. You help people make themselves and their lives and their relationships better.
Well, I give them options
You give them options.
and teach them that instead of following a model of shoulds,
Yes.
to follow a model of what are your values,
Yes.
what matters to you in this world,
Yes.
and what do you choose.
And I think a lot of people, I think that business of choice is really interesting. I think people feel like they're victims of their relationships. And I don't mean that like an abusive relationship kind of a way, but that they're subject to circumstances.
Sure.
Like, this is my life, and this is who I am, and this is who this person is, and available to me, and so I have to kind of take.
And it's out of my control.
Yes, and this is all just happening to me, and okay, well, so be it. And well, no, I have agency. We all have agency,
Yes.
and I can choose and make my own life better. So suppose a student is having a relational malfunction. They can bring their partner in and get relational counseling in the counseling center as well?
Yes.
Huh.
We have a number of students who are MFT, marriage and family.
Yes.
I've got a marriage and family background. My assistant director is marriage and family. So
That's a lot of...
yeah, and when you come from a counseling psychology background, that's part of it. So we've got other therapists on staff. Almost everyone does some relational counseling.
I think that's incredibly important. So tell me about this Puzzle of Life class. What's the basic, if you had to synopsize the course in like 2 sentences, what's the purpose of the course?
The purpose of the course is to raise individual awareness, to empower them, to basically help people make better choices in their living.
About everything?
In general, yes. The 4 focus points are, first, helping people define who they are, helping them understand their decision-making process and look at it so they understand how to apply what matters in decision-making.
Yes.
Second focus is relationship dynamics. And we actually, there's a program we're doing now at the Counseling Center called Friend Match. It started in the class.
Okay.
Basically, we do a compatibility exercise. It's a speed dating. But it's for everybody, and what you're looking for are the most compatible people in the class.
Yes.
And interestingly enough, what we find semester after semester, after they go through the process with that deeper understanding of self,
Yeah.
it is very common to find the class saying, everybody's compatible.
Is everybody compatible?
On certain levels, when people take the time to have the conversations and they understand that what respect really is,
Yes.
which is really looking at another person, determining how they want to be treated.
Yes.
And you have to have that conversation. Well, when you have those conversations, most people find they have more in common than what's different.
That's one of the things I was talking to my students recently about, is that human beings in the end are more similar than they are different. You just
Very
have to be
much so.
willing to see the similarity. We focus so much on what divides us, right? Demographics or whatever else, and we kind of like revel in those differences. And partly because it defines who we are. And so there's a certain identity that comes with being different from other people, but also like what it does is it divides you from having the opportunity to have a relationship with another human being, which seems like a silly waste of a person.
It's an absolute waste. Humans are slowly evolving, hopefully. Sometimes we wonder about it.
Yeah, or backwards even.
Well, but the primary basis of how evolution worked was competition.
Yes.
Well, the higher level and the one that serves everyone is collaboration.
Yes.
And our systems our human systems within our country and other places are not focusing upon that collaboration in the ways which serve most folks.
I talk about that with my students, and when we talk about conflict management specifically, and it's like, you can be competitive, so you get your needs met, but your partner doesn't get their needs met. And then that diminishes the quality of the relationship, which then subsequently undermines your eventual ability to get your needs met.
You're right on.
So it makes a whole lot more sense for us to be mutually mindful of what each of us needs, to collaborate at getting both of those needs met, and that we can continue to have a relationship where we're both having needs met on a routine basis.
Well, one of the primary issues with relationships is that folks go into it egocentrically.
Yes.
And they impose what they want on the other person, which
Yes.
is totally disrespectful. They do not develop an
Yes.
awareness of what a couple-centric behavior is.
Yes.
And couple-centric decision-making is about us.
Yes.
Any competition can be destructive. It hurts the relationship.
Yes. One of the things I was saying to my students is that it makes, if I approach conflict management or a relationship from purely my perspective and my needs are more important, it says you're not as important as a person to me. I am a more important person in this relationship than you are. I'm more focused on me, and so it's invalidating fundamentally.
Yeah.
So I think it's one step past disrespectful, and it's like you're saying to a person, you don't mean anything to me.
Yeah, exactly.
What good is going to come from that?
My needs are more important than yours.
Nothing good is going to come from that.
Exactly.
Going to breed resentment.
Well, most folks can't even define what investment in a relationship is really about.
That is true. Even when I teach my students that, they don't know what investments are.
Well, until they get to the point of understanding that if you're really invested in another human being, you're doing everything in your power to enhance their self-esteem and quality of life.
Yes.
And if both people do that, it's kind of a wonderful experience.
It's beyond amazing, right? When I talk to my students about conflict too, it's like when you have a productive conflict with your partner, you both feel valued. You go into it with the expectation you're going to learn something as opposed to protect yourself from the other person. And when you and your partner can look at each other and say, I appreciate your needs, I see that you appreciate mine, let's figure out how to get them both met, we feel so good and we are closer to each other. And how is that not awesome?
Yeah, totally.
And it seems far more awesome than winning.
Yes.
Winning, like I'm approaching the conflict from a fight perspective, and so I get my needs met and that's it, but I've diminished the quality of the relationship and negated my partner, and I can't see how that's better.
Totally agree.
Yay! I'm so glad to be validated in this. I hope my students are watching this. What exactly is your degree in? Counseling?
It's in counseling psychology. It's applied behavioral studies and education with a specialization in counseling psychology, which was Oklahoma State University's program.
You have more syllables than you need in most of your titles.
Exactly.
That's outstanding. And so, can anybody take the Puzzle of Life class?
Yes.
So what level is it? Where? How do I find it if I'm looking for it in the
It's
schedule?
HDAL 2350.
Okay.
Okay. And basically, when you say level, we've had students, predominantly it's sophomores, juniors, and seniors, and even grad students who have taken it.
Really?
Yes. We have 18 sections a year right now. 18 to 19. Yeah.
That's a high demand.
It may be going up tremendously.
Ooh, that's so exciting. And so so if a student comes in and they don't need to have any kind of like HDAL background or anything like that, they could just
Not at all.
come in and sit and learn about themselves and hopefully come out better for it.
Right.
That makes me so happy.
Well, and that's why, years ago we developed the class at Georgia as a career decision-making class.
Yeah.
When we factored it out, we found what you really get is you raise people's awareness in a way where they become more personally responsible.
Yes.
And so we took out some of the career component and focused it more upon helping people learn about themselves and how to cope and how to put together a life they'll enjoy.
That is so important. So I can take Solving the Puzzle of Life. If I want to go to the counseling center, where is it located?
345 Culp Center.
345 in the Culp Center. So kind of up there by the ballrooms.
Yes, exactly.
A little bit?
If you come out of the elevator, it's 1 o'clock.
I never understood where's 1 versus 2?
It's a little bit to the right.
It is a little bit to the right. This has been tremendously informative and exciting, and I'm so pleased to have been able to talk to you. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Brown. We've been speaking with Dr. Steve Brown about mental health issues and the resources available on the ETSU campus. Join us next time on Spotlight ETSU. And